What's going on, everyone? My name is Under the Radar and welcome to the NCP. This is going to be the draft analysis for, I believe, Season 5 of the NCP. I've been watching the NCP for a while now, actually. I've known a lot of people in it over the years. Ultra Player, Jay, we have John, Ogle, Liv, like everybody. I've even known of the Commissioner Grandmaster D-Ray for a long ass time, but so funnily enough, I thought that they were like 15. I was like, gonna stay away from that for now, but turns out one of the oldest and coolest dudes in the community. So I guess you should never go on your first impressions of somebody or what you think before you judge someone. So I went into this draft knowing exactly what I wanted. I knew exactly what I wanted for every single pick in every single round for the entire draft. None of them were Zeraora, which you see on your screen, which I clearly got round one. So I knew exactly what I wanted. I got 6th pick overall, and we allowed some busted Pokemon that shouldn't have been allowed. Like Dragapult was allowed, shouldn't be allowed in my opinion. Urshifu Single Strike shouldn't be allowed in my opinion. Mew shouldn't be allowed in my opinion. So like there's a bunch of Pokemon that were allowed that shouldn't have been allowed. And of course, none of them are going to fall to me. Like clearly none of them are going to fall to me. So it kind of hit me that I don't care about anything in the top tiers aside from Urshifu Single Strike. I wanted that Pokemon because it was busted. I wanted to use it before it gets banned next season after me like begging for it for so long. So I didn't want anything in the top tiers. I didn't want Lando T. I didn't want Galar Darm. I didn't want Zygarde. I didn't really want Celesteela. So I did not care about what I got. So I was kind of like just thinking, well, what is one of the cooler things that I could get that I probably won't get to use again unless I have another top 6? And that was Zeraora. Now, Zeraora I got for a couple different reasons. One, I wanted it I wanted it because it has elite speed, which, if you know me, I don't really give a single care in the world about speed tiers. I think speed tiers are pretty overrated. I think that if you hit like some certain benchmarks, you're good, and if you can play around the extra bulk, speed tiers don't really matter. But this gives me elite speed, which I think is one thing that does matter. I have a Pokemon that can outspeed entire rosters, which is really important. Also having really good offensive moves with close combat, knockoff, plasma fists. It gets play rough, outrage, things like that. Super strong Pokemon. Has the ability to do a lot if they don't have a ground type. But the other thing that I really wanted to like kind of sort of take advantage of is I wanted to take advantage of this Pokemon being able to be used for pivoting, for breaking down bulky waters, breaking down bulky fairies, things like that. And I wanted to try to build around that. So whenever it was going around and around, things were getting taken, and the only thing I knew I wanted was Tapu Fini. I wanted Tapu Fini so unbelievably bad because I wanted to have Tapu Fini that can't really get hit by an electric type attack because I have Zeraora, and I wanted to pair it with something like a Hydreigon or a Salamence to be able to take the grass type hits to then be able to set up and win or keep pivoting and breaking. So that's kind of where I went from there. It was 3 picks away from me, and Shuckle King took Tapu Fini. So that was the first real snipe of the draft, in my opinion. For me, I got sniped about 9 times. Yeah, so I got sniped a lot in this draft, and I didn't really, like, I recovered from it okay, but it really hurt me. So as it was coming back around, I looked in front of me, and there was one person that could take Hydreigon, but I didn't think they would, so I let it sit. But everybody else, I didn't think they would take it, and if they did take it, I had Salamence. So I went ahead for my round 2 pick, and let's just see what I took there. So my round 2 pick, I took NIDOQUEEN. NIDOQUEEN is the best check to Zeraora in the game, and I took it simply for that reason. It's also a really good rocks, toxic spikes. It gets really good move coverage, but ultimately it is one of the best Zeraora checks, so I wanted it so other people couldn't have it. So I've got a really reliable rocker. I don't really need to worry about much else because Nidoqueen can come most weeks and it can put up my rocks for me, and I don't really care about much else. And I care about toxic spikes more than I care about other hazards. So like sticky webs are cool, spikes are cool, but I care about toxic spikes a lot. So I have a grounded poison and I have a stealth rocker and Nidoqueen. Super reliable check to use. Zeraora is now off the board, and if Hydreigon gets picked before it gets back to me, then that's what it is. So the round 2 finishes, and Hydreigon was still on the board, so I was like, wow, it might actually get to me, and it was 2 picks away from me, and Vepsis took it. So I've gotten sniped of Tapu Fini and Hydreigon. Now in hindsight, I should have taken Hydreigon here. I probably could have let Nidoqueen sit for a round, but I didn't want Josh, Ultra Player, to take it. I didn't want him to take Nidoqueen because he has a really good team for Nidoqueen, and I didn't really want that. And also so did Ogle. Ogle also had a phenomenal team for Nidoqueen. They have Corviknight and Urshifu single strike, so it's super plausible for a Nidoqueen to go on a bunch of people's teams. And while I could have waited, I still stand by it, but I still consider it a snipe because I would have really liked to have it. So it comes back around to me, and I've got my rocker, I've got my grounded poison, I've got my ground type, I've got my electric type with Volt Absorb. I'm not too worried about most electric types at this point in time. I've got a really good breaker, both specially and physically. I feel as though I've got a really good start to the team. So whenever I was looking at round 3, I got Salamence. Now, Salamence I got for a couple different reasons. One, it gets dual wing beat now, which means it has really reliable flying stab to be able to hit things to break through Pokemon, but it also gives me something that I can set up and sweep with. And if you watched my How I Won the APA Low Tier League, you'll know that setup sweepers are like, they're so much fun to use, and I use them to pretty good success. I use Shell Smash, but Dragon Dance is basically a weaker Shell Smash. And with Moxie, with Intimidate being really bulky, heavy duty boots, this thing can set up most weeks, and it can break through teams, or it can set up and sweep. So I really like this Pokemon for that aspect of it. But also, I really like it whenever you take into consideration this is an Intimidator that is immune to ground type, and my first 2 Pokemon are weak to ground. So I have a really good ground check if I can't run this thing offensively, which makes me super happy. And the other Pokemon I wanted to pair with Hydreigon is actually still on the board, and it also pairs really well with Salamence, because Salamence can't really break through certain types that this Pokemon does. So this other Pokemon that I wanted was that I got next. So Salamence, I'm happy with it. I wish I had Hydreigon, but at the same time, I cannot complain. Salamence is phenomenal, and I'm really happy with it. And I've got a good start to cores. I've got a really good start to a Dragon Fairy Steel core, because I know what fairy I want at this point, considering that Tapu Fini is gone. I knew exactly which fairy I wanted, and hardly anybody else likes the fairy, so I felt pretty confident waiting on that for at least 2 rounds. And yeah, that sounds about right for Salamence. So let's see what I took in round 4 to pair with Salamence. So this was the Pokemon that I wanted to pair with my dragon, because this Pokemon I think is busted. Like, it's not too broken, because its base 100 speed makes it very manageable. But if this thing had base 130 or 125 speed, Thunderous Kick plus Brave Bird kills everything in the game. Like, the only thing it doesn't kill is like Corviknight with Mirror Armor, because it bounces back the defense drop. But at the same time, this thing is stupid good. This is a phenomenal breaker for my team. This thing forces in a bunch of different Pokemon to just take a crap ton of damage. It forces in fat fairies to take a Thunderous Kick, and if I'm not Choice Scarfed and I fire off a Brave Bird afterwards, 9 times out of 10, it's going to be doing at least 65% to something. And then if you count rocks plus a Thunderous Kick damage, it can kill something very quickly. So I really do like this Pokemon versus fatter teams, versus more offensive teams. A Scarf option with Brave Bird, with U-Turn, with Dual Wing Beat, Close Combat. It's very good. So as a really good revenge killer, a really good breaker, and a really good momentum mon to go with Zeraora, I figured that this would work out really well for the team. Now, as far as going around the draft with this, I don't have a lot of typings that I typically like to have in a draft early on. I don't have a fairy, I don't have a water, I don't have a fat psychic, I don't have I don't have a steel type. I don't have a handful of things. So I started looking, and this is where I really determined what I wanted the rest of my draft to be. And I got sniped about 6 times after this. So I really want to have a Trick Room core because I have a really good elite speed. People are going to prep for it really hard. They're going to run Choice Scarfers to try to outspeed my Zeraora. They're going to bring Choice Scarfers to outspeed a DD Mence. They're going to bring a Choice Scarf to try to beat G-ZAPDOS down because it can't be beaten defensively that easily. So I have a feeling that people are going to prep a lot for my speed. So I wanted a Trick Room core, and I wanted it to have Pokemon like Aromatisse. I wanted it to have Pokemon like Cursula. I wanted it to have Pokemon like Glastrier and STAKATAKA. I wanted to have Trevenant. I wanted to have Gourgeist. I wanted to have a bunch of different options. And going into this next round, I noticed that my buddy Kyle A is a meme lord, and he was going for a mono water draft. So I got scared because so this is in round 5 that it's coming up on, and he has taken 1, 2, 3, 4. I believe this was his. I think he has 4 waters right now, right? Yeah, so he has 4 waters right now. I'm expecting everybody to take water types after me and before me because they want their good fat water before Kyle takes them all. So I might have jumped the gun a little bit on this, but I don't think so because I think it would have been taken if I didn't take it. And that's Blastoise. Blastoise is a phenomenal Pokemon. It's a fat water. It gives me a rapid spinner. It has access to Flip Turn now, so it keeps up that momentum that I really want with the team. It also has access to Shell Smash now, so it can be a super offensive sweeper if I wanted it to be. Super clutch Pokemon. However, after me this round, let's see. My Lodic and Slowking were taken. And then on the way back, so like after I take my next pick, nobody took a fat water, and on the way up, nobody took a fat water. So like I took this probably a little bit too soon now post draft looking at everything, but ultimately I think this thing goes really well. I have really good grass resist and grass switch-ins in both Galar Zap. Salamence, Nidoqueen is pretty good. Zeraora is a really good electric switch in along with Nidoqueen. So I have really good options, but most importantly, I have my fat water, I have a sweeper, I have a rapid spinner for hazard removal, I have a shell smasher. I have a lot of options with Blastoise, and I'm really happy for it. I think it is one of my favorite Pokemon that I drafted. So, and at this point, this is where I got sniped a little bit more. No, I'm sorry. This is where the biggest decision of the draft came in for me because, so I mentioned I wanted a Trick Room core, right? And I wanted things like Aromatisse. I wanted things like Cursula. I also really wanted Galarian Articuno because it is super fat. It's also a really good fighting resist, which the 2 Trick Room sweepers I wanted were both weak to fighting. So I was like, that works out perfectly. I really wanted Galarian Articuno, and it actually is still on the board right now, so I could take it at any time. But I ended up not drafting it because ultimately MESPRIT just fits so much better on what I wanted. It gives me the ground immunity I want. It makes it to where I don't have a weakness to Edgequake. It gives me Trick Room, it gives me U-Turn, it gives me Healing Wish, it gives me another Stealth Rocker. I really wanted to branch out, and I really wanted to use Galarian Articuno. In fact, I was in a call with Ben, like trying to decide, like, how can I make it to where I can put Galarian Articuno on this team and not worry about anything else, and not have to worry about Edgequake, not have to worry about bringing 3 flying types and having an ice weakness now. I wanted to have like all of these things, but I ultimately could not figure out how to make it work. So I went with MESPRIT. I'm hoping that MESPRIT underperforms, but MESPRIT literally never underperforms. MESPRIT is one of, if not my favorite fat psychics in the format. So it was the better pick for the team, but it also offers a lot for the team. It gives me the Trick Room, it gives me Healing Wish, it gives me U-Turn, it gives me Stealth Rocks, it gives me another setup sweeper on its own with Nasty Plot, with Calm Mind, really good coverage. So I'm really happy with MESPRIT. I think it's a really good Pokemon. And from here on, I got sniped a few times of things that like weren't like super important. The only big thing that really comes to mind, I got sniped of the 2 remaining fairy types that I wanted. So I was going to go Aromatisse next, but I knew that MESPRIT wouldn't make it back to me because there were 6 teams that didn't have a psychic type at this point. And I knew for a fact it wasn't going to make it back to me. I knew it, and I was like, do I want Aromatisse or do I want MESPRIT? If MESPRIT gets taken, I have Galarian Articuno, which opens up a lot of weaknesses. If my fairies get taken, I have another fairy in mind that I can take that's super low tier that would still work, that would still give me everything I wanted. And ultimately, I decided that MESPRIT was more important than Aromatisse. Aromatisse ended up getting sniped. Sylveon ended up getting sniped. I'm trying to think. What else was there? There was like another fairy that I wanted, or like that I could have gotten that got sniped. Gourgeist ended up getting taken here, which was a snipe because I really wanted Gourgeist. Slurpuff was taken, which I really wanted Slurpuff for webs, but that was taken a couple rounds earlier. Yeah, there was a lot. Oh, the other really big snipe happened in round 2. I wanted Zarude. I wanted Zarude with Zeraora so freaking badly. I was ready to take it round 3 without a single hesitation or question. It's only 12 points. Nobody should dip into that in the first 2 rounds. And if people play well, then I can get it. I can get it round 3, no problem. And I'll put off literally everything else because I have Zarude. I can clickbait it. Amazing. No. So Liv took it round 2. Well, technically round 3, but she was at the wheel, so took it round 2. It infuriated me because I was like, she's used it twice already. I haven't gotten to use it at all. Branch out. Let me have my fun. But she didn't care. So she took Zarude for me. So I think that was like the biggest snipes of all. And then after this, I kind of sort of got pretty much everything I wanted. So this next pick, I needed something that was a dark type because right now I'm pretty weak to fat psychics. I can't really break through them all that well. I also really wanted a good pivoting mon, and I wanted a really good mon that can help set up my offensive mons that I have because I'm getting like 2 more, and I wanted a really good way to get them in for free. So Incineroar was the last mon I took. Now I have Incineroar in my APA low tier league right now, but Incineroar fits really, really well on this team. Even though it is an Edgequake weakness, heavy duty boots means that I'm not weak to stealth rocks or spikes or anything like that. I have access to parting shot to allow my setup mons to set up a little bit easier. Gives me another knockoff mon. I think I have 4 of them now, or 3 of them. Can't really remember. But it gives me a lot of options that I really needed with Incineroar. Incineroar is unbelievably good at just getting momentum, forcing switches, but most importantly, it forces in fat waters, which my Zeraora can take advantage of. If they don't bring a fat water, I fire off a Flare Blitz and I do a lot of damage to something. So yeah, that was kind of my idea behind Incineroar. I did get Persian initially, but after like 5 minutes, I had immediate buyer's remorse, and I was like, can I switch? The person after me hadn't picked yet. Let me switch. They're like, yeah, that's cool. So I picked up Incineroar. And this really solidified it how the rest of the draft was going to go. So the round went past me, it went down, and then it came back up, and it got to me, and I was looking at Vepsis, who took Hydreigon from me, and I was like, they could really benefit from the fairy that I want. They don't have a fairy type, they don't have Wish Pass, they don't really have good stealth rockers at this point. They have 1 in Registeel. Like NIDOQUEEN can be a good rocker, but he's going to want to run that thing offensively. So I was pretty worried that I wasn't going to get my fairy, so I took it now, and I'm glad I did. I actually ended up taking Wigglytuff in like round 8. So Wigglytuff gives me Wish, it gives me Stealth Rocks, it gives me Knockoff, it gives me Trick Room plus Teleport, it gives me Wish plus Teleport, it gives me a really good Ghost immunity, which is super important with Spectrier being allowed in the draft. It gives me a bunch of really good options that I needed in my fairy, but most importantly, it gives me Wish because none of my walls right now, aside from Salamence, has reliable recovery. So using this to keep my team healthy is going to be phenomenal, passing off massive wishes, and yeah, really happy with Wigglytuff. It was only 2 points, and this gave me plenty of room to work with whatever I wanted. I still needed a grass type. I have my dragon and fairy. I know what steel type I want. And I don't have a grass type, and I don't have a steel type. Those are the big ones. But the other two Pokemon that I wanted in this draft were the other three were pretty easy for me to decide on. Two of them were. The last one was my grass type that I didn't really know what I wanted. But at this point, I was looking ahead of me because I believe it went Wigglytuff, and then after me it was everybody had a grass type, so I knew that I could wait around on my grass type, and but I couldn't wait if my Trick Room Abuser got taken. So I took Glastrier in round 9. So Glastrier, it gives me a really good Trick Room option. It gives me really good Trick Room offense, but most importantly, it gives me a Pokemon that does not die in one hit unless it's a super, super strong stab move. This thing has disgusting offenses. It has disgusting defenses. The only bad thing is its speed, but I do have MESPRIT, I have Wigglytuff, and I'm also getting another Trick Roomer on top of this to be able to set up Trick Room and hopefully sweep with Glastrier or break with Glastrier. Mainly break. I don't really want to sweep with this thing. I want to sweep with something like Mince, Zeraora, or my other Trick Room setter and abuser. So Glastrier was a really cool offensive mon for me to take, and it ultimately it helps pressure the fat waters, and it forces them to come, so that way I can bring my Zeraora and just force a bunch of switches and limit a Pokemon that they can switch into. It pretty much, so the way that I was looking at this whole team was, I bring things that pressure in the fat waters. I then bring my Zeraora to pressure out the fat water, to then force in the fat ground, and then I knock it off, I close combat it, I weaken it to be able to then sweep with my Zeraora later on. So that's kind of how I was thinking about the offense that I wanted. But let's go ahead and talk about the grass type that I got, which was Thwackey. Now I got Thwackey only because of grassy terrain, grassy glide, and decent power compared to the other grass types I was considering. I was considering Trevenant, I was considering Cradilly for a water immunity, for Kyle because he has a mono water team. I was considering a bunch of different things, but ultimately, Thwackey weakens Earthquakes for my Zeraora, my NIDOQUEEN, and my final Mon, which is going to be a Trick Room Abuser and Setter. And it also makes it to where things like my Incineroar can get reliable recovery, my Wigglytuff can get recovery off of grassy terrain, my Glastrier can also get recovery off of grassy terrain. And it gives me a really good option. It also gives me a really good revenge killer in some options, like depending on the team, a Choice Banded Grassy Glide could be lit to be able to pick up some kills. So Thwackey, super cool, super obvious why I took it, but also a really key member of the team that I'm already planning on bringing versus a couple teams that I've already looked at, but super cool mon. And then I've been talking about this Pokemon for a while now. It's a Trick Room Abuser and Setter, so it's pretty obvious what it is. I also don't have a Steel type. I took STAKATAKA in the final round. I used STAKATAKA in my champion team, or my championship team of NPA. I loved the Pokemon. It was absolutely phenomenal. It pretty much forces a lot of prep. So that's kind of what I wanted to do with this Pokemon. I wanted to force prep to have extra fighting coverage, extra ground coverage, so that way my MESPRIT can come in, it can set up Trick Room, it can U-turn, and then it can just drop in my Glastrier and be able to break through things. Or it forces a lot of Pokemon to just be scared if this thing comes in and sets up a Trick Room, to see what my opponents are going to do for 4 turns while this thing can get 4 Gyro Balls off and just do a crap ton of damage. And the other thing, so I have both of my Trick Room offensive mons are weak to fighting, but I have Salamence and Galarian Zapdos. So if they want to bring a fighting type to try to break through my Trick Room, they're going to have a Pokemon that is weak to Dual Wing Beat or Brave Bird. I also have MESPRIT, which can easily pressure with Psychic type moves, and as well as Zeraora. So ultimately, I think this team is very cool. I think it is a super unique team. I think it's something that not many people would draft. I think it's also just a bunch of Pokemon that look cool. So I really do like that. But week 1 will be going up next week. We play Shuckle King, who is a phenomenal battler. He won so many leagues last year, and he's just stupid good, and I'm really scared because I know that he's really good and I don't want to lose week 1. So be sure you guys look out for that. I'm probably going to be doing a team builder in the same video. So make sure you guys just keep an eye out for that not being in a separate video as well. But with that, guys, I'm going to go ahead and get on out of here. Thank you for rooting for your Maryland Torterrapins this season, and I will see you guys in week 1. Bye-bye.